Kristina, welcome to the Aging Well podcast. You've been a CRNA for over 20 years. What did you see in your clinical experience that pushed you toward becoming a health coach and writing, and I love this title, Get Healthy or Get Dead?
Well, thanks for having me on your podcast, Jeff. I really appreciate it. My name is Kristina Morros. I am a nurse anesthetist, but I do not practice in the clinical setting anymore. So the pandemic kind of pushed me out into the wild of going out on my own and writing my book. So I have a book and a workbook called Get Healthy or Get Dead. They kind of go together. So the book kind of directs you through actual exercises you can work through to learn about being healthier and do certain things like mindfulness and activities and journaling and all those sorts of things. To keep the story kind of short, because it's a long rabbit hole discussion of how I ended up where I am. Basically, I left the United States to go to the Netherlands, and I practiced there for 10 years. And during the pandemic, they closed everything down and pushed us to the units to help with the COVID patients. And it was then that I noticed, and actually I noticed before, the healthcare system was conflicted with conflicts of interest and drug companies pushing certain things, protocols, insurance companies controlling how patients are cared for. But during the pandemic, it became very blatant that it was basically protocol to get people sick, for hospitals to make money. Patients were suffering, dying, or becoming chronically disabled from not getting appropriate treatment. And I personally had that experience when both my parents got sick, and I had to go rescue them from the hospital. And I became familiar with a nonprofit that had COVID treatment strategies using repurposed drugs and nutraceuticals. And so I joined forces with them, and we helped save literally millions of people's lives all over the globe. And so that unfortunately also became somewhat compromised, and I left. So it pushed me out into the wild to begin my own coaching practice, and it spurred the book being written to help lead people on how step by step to take control of their health and get better, not rely on systems and people telling you what to do, but actually doing the work yourself.
Kind of sounds like what we talk about here on the Aging Well podcast.
Yeah, I love your podcast, by the way. I've been listening to it all morning.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Speaking of aging well, how do you define aging well?
That's a really good question, because having aging parents who are still kind of addicted to listening to system medicine, it's about basically supporting your cells and preventing disease and regular screening and taking an active role into your health, which means making the correct decisions for your body and for your mind, body, and soul, and fueling your body correctly and keeping your body moving and balancing that with stress reduction. So, biohackers say aging is a disease. I tend to agree with that, but I don't necessarily like to say that because it is correctable. I mean, all diseases are correctable, but it's not. Disease is so associated with something that's bad that you're going to die from. And I believe that when you age gracefully, that you don't necessarily get old and broken, but you become more refined and you evolve. Like, I'm 50, so I'm in the best health of my life at this current state, which is saying a lot. I mean, being 20 or 30 and then being healthier when you're 50, that's, I guess, not typically aging, but that is aging.
Yeah. I mean, aging to me, it's just a number, really. It's how are we living those numbers? And I hate the idea of it being a disease.
Yeah.
Because a disease is something you either catch or it's something you need to avoid. And we can't avoid aging. I mean, we're going to get older. And it's just how are we going to go about that process of aging? And we'll dive into your paddleboarding and your activities and everything as we kind of progress through this. But your platform focuses on individuals who refuse to be broken, and I love that statement. What does that phrase mean to you, and how does it shape your coaching philosophy?
So we can either sit back and be fed information and trust everything we're being told, or we can receive the information, look at it ourselves, take the data in, and make our own decisions. So my coaching practice is coaching, but it's also in a sort of a sense of advocacy, because my background is nursing. And so a lot of people they get lost in the system, or they're confused, or they're told so many different conflicting things. They don't know how to process information. So within my coaching practice, basically I look at whatever people are having issues with, and then I kind of investigate it as a scientific investigator and look at their data, look at their lifestyle, see what they could improve on. If there's labs or things we need to actually look at, then actually ordering those labs, helping them go through and educate them on what those results mean. And then if they have a managing provider, helping them communicate with that provider and helping them get the best targeted help for whatever the imbalance is. And then on the side of maybe having the practitioner involved, and I'm there as a resource to help the individual eat better, shop better, so go shopping at the store and buy better products, get some sort of movement in. It doesn't have to be paddleboarding or yoga. Those are my specialties, but helping someone figure out a way just to get movement started and keep with a routine. Stress reduction is a huge thing. I am a yoga teacher, so breath work, yoga, mindfulness, gratitude, intention setting, and manifesting what you want is part of evolving into a healthier person and having a balanced being and spiritual connectedness with the greater purpose. And sleep is such an important thing. And I was listening to you talk about that today with another one of your guests, and sleep hygiene is really important. I agree with you on that point. And when people don't really prioritize sleep and allowing that time to rest, they're really doing their body a disservice and running it down and stressing out the cells. And we want to keep the cells in a healthy state. That's what keeps us aging gracefully.
So you've told us kind of your definition of getting well, or aging well rather. How do you define getting healthy? And you've kind of alluded that to a little bit there, but how is this different from the mainstream health narratives that people are often bombarded with?
So I think people are bombarded with get help. I'm not trying to say I want to say get rich quick, but that's not what I mean. Get healthy quick, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like Ozempic, all those pills, or getting on some diet fad. And I'm not saying all diets are bad. Certain eating regimens have a certain place in certain situations. Like, I just want to take carnivore diet for just an example. It has its place. A lot of people do it. It probably shouldn't be something you should do long term, because your body does need fiber and nutrients from a balanced diet with vegetables and fruits. But when people are just kind of fed those types of things and don't actually research on what the appropriate strategy is, and they get lost, and then they often are disappointed by not achieving results. So it's really a matter of discipline, learning the discipline to, it's not a diet or a quick fix. It's actually a lifestyle change, a new adoption of a new way of living. And that's kind of my motto with Get Healthy, Get Dead. And that's what I've done with myself actually as well. My journey started with intermittent fasting, and I'm not saying everyone should do intermittent fasting, but it worked great wonders for me and for my muscle tone and my body composition, and my metabolic, my metabolism is not very flexible because of that. And those are just a few things that help people, change what needs to be changed.
Yeah, I think we tend to confuse tools with, real fixes, and solutions. And we need to understand that nothing is perfect, and everybody has their own individual needs, and things are going to work differently for one person than they will for another person. And more often than not, every diet is good until it's not.
Yeah,
it doesn't all work for a while.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's individualized treatment or care. People have to kind of explore what works for them and what doesn't, and then go with the solution that best fits them as an individual.
So the title of your book is Bold and Unapologetic. What inspired it, and how has the public responded to it?
Well, it's just been released since June 1st, so it's new. So still raising awareness for the book.
Okay.
But the title is kind of my personality. I mean, I'm pretty straightforward, and I like to tell people like it is. And some people may not swallow that well, and others may react to it well. But basically, sometimes we need someone to come in and just tell you the truth and be supportive, but not coddle. And I'm not really a coddler. I'll just basically say, hey, this is probably what you need to be doing. I can help show you how to do it. It's your choice whether to follow those instructions or not, because ultimately it's your body and your choice what you do to it. But these are the things and the strategies you could use to try to help change your body and your mind and your activities and your outcome in the future. So the book is kind of explaining also the background of why medicine and wellness are corrupted, how much money is being made off of both of those businesses, and how the public is basically duped into being led on one path or the other if you're not careful and not doing your own research. So this book lays out the foundation for that information in case you're not awake and aware of what's going on, and then just kind of then takes your hand and walks you through the different points of being healthy. And the first part starts with sleep, actually, and just kind of moves through eating and movement and mindfulness, and ends on getting your finances in order. Granted, I'm not a financial planner, but when you are overwhelmed and you don't have a plan for the different things in life that might make you feel like you're drowning, that when you get all those things going on the right track, it starts evolving into making you feel less overwhelmed, so you have a more positive path to follow.
So do you see the irony in an anesthetist waking us up?
Well, yeah, and I can only speak for myself, because I have to admit that my colleagues in the medical field are not quite as aware of what's going on as I am. And that's why I am not practicing anesthesia, because I cannot, I can function and do anesthesia. I'm actually very good at it, but I have a moral and ethical conflict when I walk into a hospital and I see people on Ozempic or have other inflammation issues that are not being addressed, and then anesthesia is prescribed and there's no consideration taken into what nutraceuticals they may be on, or if they have a methylation problem, or other nutraceuticals that might interfere with certain metabolism pathways that might cause toxicity. Like, there's just so many things that I found myself sitting there watching what was going on and being like, I can't do this anymore. So maybe it's odd. My path is different from other nurse anesthetists. I've kind of jumped into functional medicine, and through the COVID pandemic, I learned about infectious disease, and specifically spike protein related inflammation. And that took me down this path of evolving my knowledge base outside of anesthesia. So, and then when you combine that with an education in yoga, it gives kind of a different perspective than a typical nurse anesthetist.
So in the book, you talk about personal responsibility and urgency. Why do you think those two elements are so often missed in today's wellness conversations?
Why urgency is missed? Was that
personal responsibility and urgency.
So I think that if we don't address an issue, and I'm just going to take inflammation, let's just take mast cell activation. So someone who has issues with histamine, allergies, can also trigger autoimmune and other things, even cancer. When you don't actually address why you're having seasonal allergies, or why you're reacting to a certain food, or maybe you're having gut issues with something, and you kind of let that continue, the inflammation gets worse. So it's really important to find out the why behind the imbalance, address the why, try to correct the why. And it's important to do that now than wait for later when the problem snowballs into something that's harder to correct. And I'm not saying that there will be a point that you can't correct it, but when you have a malignant tumor and it's growing faster than you can shrink it, you're to a point where unfortunately you won't be able to fix the problem. So it's better to work through a vision of prevention, almost like changing the oil in your car. That's the way I look at your health, checking your regular health parameters. And it's urgent in this point in time because the system is getting even more out of control. The economy's worse. Things are getting more expensive. Insurance is almost unaffordable. Families can't pay hospital bills. People are having to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. It's important to try to do what you can on your own because there are lots of free things to start with to make steps in the right direction. It doesn't always mean spending thousands of dollars on finding a solution. It's as simple as drinking enough water and making sure you go to bed on time and you wake up at the same time and you have a conducive sleep environment and you make movement a priority and you block that time in your schedule and you communicate with your loved ones that you need that time for yourself. So you create your boundaries that you need for your own health. Because if we burn ourselves out, then, if you're a mom, for instance, if you burn yourself out, you can't really be the best mom you can because you can't be there for your kids and for your husband, for the rest of your family. So it's vitally important in this day and age that we, really become aware of how important health is and decide to take that step now to correct things.
It's amazing. We've kind of forgotten that old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to go back to the old ways. And yes. Just the way, if you look at how our grandparents and our great-grandparents lived and looked at what they were eating and how they were, there were less cars and less commuting, of course. That wasn't, around, years and years ago. So the lifestyle is different than it is now, but I think it's important to prioritize the basics again and come back to correcting those historic practices.
Yeah, you look at the blue zones, the people that are living the best across the globe, they're living pretty simply. And, they're not, you ask somebody that's 100 years old, what's your secret? They're not talking about, I have a great doctor who prescribes me the best medications and I have these 10 pills that I take. It's the things that they've done over the course of their life that have prevented the disease from affecting them. And you emphasize simplicity in your approach. So what are some of the core habits or principles you recommend in Get Healthy or Get Dead that listeners could begin to implement today?
So the first thing, the most important thing is setting boundaries. You have to set the boundaries to schedule and the time to give the different aspects the attention they need. So again, the first thing I would emphasize is looking at your sleep situation. If it's out of whack, that would be the first thing to consider because that impacts your mental health and your feeling of anxiety and when you don't get enough sleep, you can't think clearly, you have brain fog. That would be a huge priority, I would tell people. I think looking at your diet is a major, major, major one. If you look at the amount of people who are overweight around you, like I live in Florida, I'm at the beach all the time. I look at people walking around in swimsuits and see, the majority of people who are in shape and walking around the beach is pretty rare nowadays, which is kind of shocking actually. And people think that they're eating healthy when in fact they're not. Eating seed oils, omega-6 products, eating fat-free, low-fat, cooking with sprays, not eating full fat, cooking in lard and butter, and, going back to those basic things where you're not refining foods and where you're not taking things out to process them, making them seem healthy. Those things are very easy fixes. And learning about which foods have higher sugar content, which are processed quicker in the body, which allow for the swings in the blood sugar, which cause people to crave carbohydrates. I think that's a main thing to look at. Fasting is not for everyone, but I tell you what, it'll kick you into a good pattern of eating because you will get over that initial trigger, which makes you hungry, and then you forget about eating, and then you start eating in a window, in like an eating window. You have your fasting window and your eating window, which the fasting window is actually, you sleep part of that window, so it doesn't really even feel like you're fasting. But even if you're not doing intermittent fasting, but if you're eating in kind of a timed hourly space on a daily basis, it'll get your body in a better circadian sync as well. It's really important because those are the things that kind of, the stress will throw your hormones out of whack. That's another thing. People should have their hormones checked. There are lots of people walking around with thyroid issues and just hormonal imbalances, and that will cause you to retain weight or feel burned out or cause you to react in certain ways. So I think those, and hydration, of course, I have to mention that as well, because people are drinking sodas and energy drinks and, all these, I love coffee, don't get me wrong, but like coffee drinks and tea drinks with all the syrups and sugars in them, instead of prioritizing just good old fashioned, clean, filtered water. Like, it's just so basic, and it's so easy to do with carrying a water bottle around with you everywhere and drinking on a regular basis, to keep your body hydrated, especially in the summertime. I'm sure I'm missing some other things that are very basic, but those are the like the most urgent things that come to mind.
That really kind of underscores the 6 principles that we always bring up on, the 6 pillars that we always bring up on this podcast. So just get your body moving, maintain a healthy body composition, eat a healthy diet, reasonably healthy diet. Doesn't have to be a perfect diet. We say don't smoke, but fortunately fewer and fewer people are smoking nowadays, so that isn't as critical to underscore. What's that?
Let's don't substitute smoking for vaping. I can't. That's terrible for you. I just want to make a note of that, though, because people think, oh, I vape now. It's like, no,
it's still bad. I underscore too that people that smoke like pipes and cigars, they say, well, I don't smoke because I don't inhale. It's like, do you not breathe between those puffs? Because the air you're breathing has that smoke and all those chemicals and everything in it. You're giving yourself secondhand smoke if you're not inhaling it directly.